of the bravest people in the world. And part of that bravery means admitting where we start and admitting our stories. So this quote I wrote last summer, and I'm going to tell you, it went crazy viral to the tune of 100 million people have seen and shared this one quote. But there's a story behind it that I want you to remember with everybody in here. Is the story of this, sometimes you have to let go, picture what you thought life would be like, and learn to find joy in the story you are actually living. Is that everybody in here, all of you have this story. And you all look awesome. Like I said to Dan, like, oh my goodness, they all look so put together, and everyone's here and ready to go. But behind it all, we all have this story. And so many of us, especially around Mother's Day at least, we start thinking about our stories, and sometimes we're like for me, Mother's Day has been a really hard time. Like, there have been Mother's Days where I'm like, I don't want to go to brunch, I'm out, I don't want to put it all together, because there was this story behind the outer facade. Well, this quote I wrote this summer on a day when my son, my oldest son, who is 15 now, I have 7 children. I've been divorced for 7 years, and my oldest son decided this summer, I don't want to live with you, Mom. I don't want to be here anymore. I'm going to stay in Minneapolis with Dad. And it was like, as a mama's heart, like it was the knife. I mean, I had been doing everything I could for him, trying and school and showing up and getting him Izzy's at Target and everything. And there was this moment where I thought, I have to let him go, because he needs to find happiness again, and if I'm holding him so tightly and he's so angry at me, how can I do this? So I remember texting him back. It was really hot. It was in Nashville. I was sitting on the porch for the 22 minutes that you can sit outside in the summer. And I said, you can stay. And after that, because I'm a writer, I wrote this quote. And I wrote it because this wasn't the picture I ever had for my life. It was never. If you had asked the 12-year-old little girl, it was not the picture to someday be a single mom with 7 kids and have my one son say, I don't want to live with you anymore. But I knew that on the other side, there were 4 other children waiting for me. And my goal was to find joy in those moments. So I wrote it, and I shared it, and I realized that the reason it went viral is it's the humanness. Everybody in here has this story. Everybody has this moment in their life where they're like, you know what? I had aimed for this plan, and I'm way over here, and I don't know what to do. And the deal is we have to figure out this joy part. But this group of women, so many times women will email me saying, I'm so alone. I'm so alone right now. And I really believe it's because we think that everybody has it together often. So, let's see. This picture is me last November. I was on the Today Show. This is me with super, super straight hair, like crazy straight, like they get you ready to like over and over again. I'm like, seriously, I didn't know if we get this straight. And then like at the last second, they're like, again. So it's like super flat, super straight. And this picture, I share this one because I wrote it on my Instagram or on my blog, is from the outside. You might think this is the greatest moment. She was a blogger, she wrote a book, she ended up on the Today Show. But for me, on the inside, this woman here, seconds before I went on television, when my agent said, take a picture by the date, my inside was broken. Because that date, November 9th, is the very date that my son, who lives in Minneapolis, was born. So I had this dichotomy of the high of being there, meeting Jenna Bush and meeting all these people. And I had the low at the very same moment, seconds before, realizing this was his birthday. And he, in those days, and that day, didn't even want to talk to me. And that's what we do as moms. We suck it up. We put a smile on, we keep going. But I wrote about it because I wanted everybody to know that so many times what we see on the internet, and what we see out there, and what we see in the chairs, we see the outside. we forget that there's a whole story behind it. We forget that there's a gal sitting in the chair next to us that needs more than anything real authenticity and a friend. So this quote, I write quotes a lot because I think I can get what's in my head out really quickly. And this quote is about breaking the illusion. So about 15 years ago, I lived in San Diego. And when I was there, I lived in an area, I didn't have much money. Part of my story was I lived with hidden poverty for years. People didn't know, people thought I had it all together. And in this story, I decided to go to this church, to go to a Bible study that was there. And I went to probably one of the wealthiest churches in San Diego. I don't know what came over me. I'm like, just drive my green minivan over there that's clunky and the door doesn't open. And then I pull into the parking lot and I'm like, everybody has a Mercedes, and that's the cheap car. So I'm getting in and I go and I pull out and they find out there's this Bible study. They were doing purpose-driven life and giving away the book. So I'm like, I'm going to do this. So I come to the Bible study, and I'm going to tell you as honest as I can what happened. I come in the room, it's just like this, it's crowded, everybody looks perfect, just like this, and this man says to me, honey, just pick out any seat you want. So me, I did this. I started assessing the room of women, like, too perfect for me, they look like they have it all together, like I'm smiling, and I'm trying to pick the table where I wouldn't stick out so much. So this kind old man must have thought I was struggling, and he says, how about this table? And it was the very table I eliminated first. I'm like, oh, not that table, not that table. And these women, I mean, they had a story I had no clue of. Nannies and trips, and their prayer requests were for packing for France, and I'm thinking to myself, like, I don't even have enough money for groceries. So I'm in that group, and I'm sitting at the table, and for 4 weeks, we all sit at the table, and we all share at the end prayer requests. And it's all kind of surface. Like I would pray, even though there was hard stuff, I would be like, so I just need help managing my toddler, which is a real legitimate request, but there was deeper stuff. And it kept going on and on and on. And then one week, my ex, and my husband back then, he lost his job. And we had moved from Minneapolis to San Diego, and everybody thought, this is the answer that will change their lives. And again, it was that picture that I had, and it was broken. So I'm in there, trying to keep it together, and prayer request time comes by. And all of a sudden, I don't know if you've had it, where they're like, hey, Rachel, and do you have a request today? And it was like, I don't know what came over me. It's something, and the tears started flowing down my face, and I'm like, and I'm sobbing, and I'm just a mess. As messy as could be. And I remember crying, telling them about this. And the leader, she stands up, she walks around the table, and she hugs me in probably a $600 shirt, crying on her, and she's just holding me. And the next thing I know, everybody at this table stands up, and they're all around me, and they're all holding me in my humanness. So we have this moment, and if you've ever had that moment, you're like, how do I move on to the next moment? Kind of you're like, I've got the cry out, I know I've got friends, and I had been the first lady to give the request. Well, we get to this place, and it goes on, and I thought, okay, here we go. And the leader, who I thought was perfect, starts crying, and she says, I didn't want anybody to know this, but I'm going through a horrible divorce right now. And I'm terrified when they show the house that someone will open the refrigerator and see that there's no food. And we're all like, what? Then it goes to the next lady, and she says, my son disowned me. I haven't seen him in 2 years. And it went on and on and on. And for 5 weeks, we had sat there, and we're like, I'm fine, I'm great, life is good, I'll see you next Tuesday. But there was never any time between Tuesday and Tuesday where we checked in with each other. It was always, I'll see you next Tuesday. I'll see you next Tuesday, trusting that we had next Tuesday to see them again. It taught me several things. It taught me that when we have the illusion of having it all together all the time, we don't give freedom to our friends to have, they have to have the same illusion. They have to have the same thing. If your friend comes over and your kitchen's a mess and you have kids and you're like, oh, I'm so sorry, it's so messy in here, you start apologizing. You put on your friend the presupposition that if you come over to their house, they have to have it clean because you apologize for your own real. So I have this theory that if we as women can drop the mask, dare to have a moment of real, dare to remember our friends between Tuesday and Tuesday, we can start to regain that collective human spirit, that love that women have together, that drive, that energy that's been lost in a world of social media and expectations and busy. You think about it, 200 years ago, there was no way women wouldn't partner with each other. We had to survive. And now we have this space, this wonderful space, but in that space, we're like, what do we do? What do we do? We look at social media and we forget that real part. So my passion has been in striving to make sure that we not only drop the masks, but we push each other forward into the real. So after I moved back from San Diego, I met this counselor. His name is Ed, and he worked with me with a lot of stuff. Told him about my story in San Diego, about being real. And he would challenge me, asking me over and over, well, do you think that your life is always going to be this way? And in those times, I tell people, like, truly, that I dealt with financial stuff that was so challenging. And I will admit it to you right now. And that picture, too, before was me on national TV talking about finances. There was 10 years of my life where I would never dare to admit in front of people that I struggled with finances. It was like I was walking around with the biggest L, loser, on me that I thought. I learned when I dropped the mask that I don't have to pick it up. You don't have to, if you're spinning 100 plates right now and you're trying to keep it all together, but you decide to put them down, there's fear, right? Who wants to put stuff down and let people go, oh, what happened there? But here's the cool part. When you drop the plates, when you put them down, you get freedom to pick up what you want to pick up again. You don't have to pick up what you were doing before. I didn't have to pick up shame over finances. The more I would pick that up, the more it limited my viewpoint. So I worked with Ed, and Ed taught me that I needed to see my future different than I was. That picture. I was so clinging to this picture of what I thought life should be. And Ed said to me, so Rachel, when you're 70, do you think you'll be in financial problems? And I said, no. Are you kidding? No. He said, well, when you're 60? I said, no. I was sure. He said, how about when you're 50? And I said, a little bit more hesitation. I said, no. He said, how about when you're 40? I was 33 at that time. Now I'm 44, freely admitted. And I said, Ed, I don't know. It was the first time I actually doubted. And he said to me, Rachel, do you know the story of Joseph from the Bible? I don't know if you all know that story, but he was in the Bible. At one point, he was convicted of a wrongdoing, and he was sentenced to jail. And in jail, he somehow survived and became second in command. And he said, how do you think he survived those days? I was like, I have no idea. And he said, he believed in a future that didn't match his present reality. So I know that there's some of you right now that have realities that are rough. Like Mother's Day, I'm gonna put on the table again. It can be rough. It can be that place where we look back and we reflect. I am thankful that Hallmark decided that we deserve a day. Like, hallelujah, we get a day where we don't have to do anything. But there's expectations that come with it. There's pictures on social media, right? Everybody has their pictures. It's like Easter. Every Easter comes up and like, oh, first day of school. Scroll through the feed, and I'm thinking, here, just to like lighten the load, you know the cute little first day of school signs? Anybody done those? Yes? So my kids, I try. My daughter, Grace, graduated high school. This is her last year. So she graduates in 2 weeks. Saw her gown, actually searched on Google, how long is a graduation gown supposed to be? Got teary because I searched on Google how long it's supposed to be. But her last day ever of school picture is of her back to me like this because she didn't want a picture. And I thought, isn't that motherhood? That's just her. So I want to encourage you during this time that the women in this room, each one has a story. So if you're in there and you're looking around and you're kind of assessing people, I really want you to remember that humanness, that coming up to another woman and saying hello if they're alone, that can change lives. My daughter Grace, the same one, she works at Starbucks, which I think God just shined down on me and said, let it be so, one of your children will work at Starbucks. Your money is coming back to you. So sometimes I'll tell her, like, that every hour how much money I'm paying for you right now. But I tell her, she'll say to me, Mom, sometimes people are so crabby. She's like, I can't believe they get so frustrated if there's not enough foam, or it's too little foam, or too much sugar. And she goes on and on. And I said, Grace, you have one job. Be kind. Just be kind. I said, Grace, you never know the story of that person in the drive-thru. You don't know what they dealt with right now. You don't know if they're going to a funeral. You don't know if they're going to school. You don't know where they're going. But your job, your only job, is to be kind. That's my mission when I write. That's the number one thing I write about, is friendship, kindness, and being real. If we as a collective, if this group of women decides, you know what, from today until next, what is today, Thursday, I am going to seek out one person and be kind. I'm going to say something nice. I am going to spread joy in that way. You have no idea the ripple that will happen. I'm going to end it with this. Several years ago, I went to Salt Lake City in a meetup. And I met up with people, readers that had read the site. And I sat there, and this one gal, she brought this gift, and she was just really touched. And she wrote me a note. And I never knew what happened until later that night. Dan said to me, I need you to know that you saved her life, because one night she was at the end. And she wrote you out of desperation, and you wrote back, you matter. Keep doing what you do. Think about that. All I wrote was you matter. I didn't know her. I didn't know her situation. But I decided in my trajectory, in my timeline, that it was worth 12 seconds of my time to say you matter to somebody else. This world needs us to say that to each other. You matter, you matter, you matter. So in your book, I decided part of what I wanted to do was I wanted it to be about bravery. I wanted it to be, people ask me all the time, how did you get unstuck? How did you reclaim your life? How did you become brave? How did you write about this stuff that nobody writes about? So I write about that. I write about how to get unstuck, but it's really a book about friendship, especially at the end. It is the call to each of us to be friends to each other. It's all about armoring up. It's about being the friend. Think about the movies that we love. Lord of the Rings, there's Frodo and Samwise. When he doesn't believe he can do it, his friends believe in him. Think about how powerful it is to have a friend like that. So many times people will say to me, moms will say, but I don't have anybody. Is that you? Could be. Let me tell you this. Your calling is to be the friend to somebody else that you need for yourself. Be the friend to somebody else that you need for yourself. It could be that barista at Starbucks that knows exactly how much foam in your latte, that knows your name and knows your kid's name. That could be the person that's looking for you. The person at preschool that stands in the corner that doesn't have anybody, it is your job. That is what I'm calling, bestowing on you to go say hello. So in the book, part of what I wanted to do was to figure out a way to extend the ripple in this world. So without my publisher, without anybody else, I took the very first quote. Sometimes you have to learn to let go of the picture of what you thought life would be like and learn to find joy in the story you're actually living. Made a postcard. On the ones that I sold out of my own home, I stamped the postcard, put it on right behind the chapter on friendship, and I did it as a calling. That was my calling. So everybody in here, I'm giving you a book, and there's a postcard in the book, and I'm asking you to do one thing. To think about somebody in your life who's shown up for you, that's been there, or to think about somebody that you know just needs a friend. So I'm asking you, there's a stamp on it, so I made it as easy. Like, we all have kids, it's easy. You say, hey, go down to the mailbox, put the flag up. I mean, it's easy. Write a note, put it in the mailbox, tell them, you matter to me. You matter. Think how powerful that is. You guys all matter to me. I need you to know that. Like, this is why I write and put my heart on the page. It's because everybody in here matters. You guys can extend the ripple from this room out, and it extends and it extends and it extends. That would be the most awesome Mother's Day gift you can give anybody. So, from me to all of you, thank you.